Hi everybody, this is Neil's Meals. I'm gonna cook to you for tonight some stuff that's interesting. It's oh, we're gonna dismiss this. Tonight we're gonna have some stuffed pork chops that aren't actually stuffed. Stuffing is just applied to the top of them. All right. So the first thing we need to do is to turn the oven on. Hey everybody, sorry about that. I had just dropped my microphone on the floor, trying to adjust it. Welcome in, Raiders. I appreciate it. This is Neil's Meals. I don't know why I'm doing that. That's dangerous. This is Neil's Meals. Tonight I'm making a stuffed pork chops that aren't actually stuffed. And I've turned the oven on because we're going to use the oven. So now what I'll do is I'll start this pan. Well, they're not unstuffed exactly. I think it was just done because actually making stuffed pork chops is not super easy. You have to get ones that are thick enough, and then you can't really stuff much stuffing in them. And then you just can't put very much in them. And you have to cut a pocket in them that doesn't go all the way through, and a lot of people aren't super comfortable doing that. I'm just moving my oil around in this pan. As a matter of fact, that's a little more oil than I want. So I'll sop some of it out. All right, so we're going to, let's do this actually. Is we have some pork chops that I bought at the grocery store the other day. Just what's on sale. These are bone-in pork loin chops, and we're going to take these out and dry them off. Let's move that. All right, so let me take my board out of the way so I can. All right. So with pork, anytime we got to sear these pork chops. So anytime you do that, you want to sort of dust them off. So these are kind of on the thin side. That's kind of the way I wanted them. And I think there are 5 of them. I think it's weird that they gave me 5 of them. But they gave me 5. So you could do this with thicker chops. You could do this with chops that were butterflied. Frankly, I was just using what they had at the store that day. So now that they are, dry the surface of them off. All right. And so we're just going to sear these to give them some color. Let me, well, I guess I can, well, I'm going to wash my hands. Even though I'll have to get them dirty. Because I don't want to get my seasonings dirty. All right. So we just want to give them a little salt and a little pepper. Not a whole lot, just some. Because what we're going to mix up for the top of it is already kind of salty. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Iowa. I don't have many streams, so I'm glad that you came into this one. Oops. All right. Now let's take these, and I'm going to use just a pair of tongs. Hopefully I have enough room in this pan, but I may have to wait on one of them. So I'm going to put these sort of down facing from the side I seasoned them on. I think I can get 4 in here. And we're going to turn it up a little bit. And we'll salt and pepper the other side. And you just want to get, a little color on them. You don't want to get a lot. Streams wouldn't be streams if they happened all the time. That's true. All right, so let's just put this on a plate. Put this in the trash. All right. So we can put him over here. They need to be cooked, and we can get started on our vegetables. Which this has celery and onion. So you want about a half cup of onion, maybe a little more, maybe a little more. All right, so so we got the celery there. And then we have an onion. Probably only need about half of this. All right, you don't want to overcook these, so we're gonna take them out. You know, I should have sprayed this pan first. Need just a little water. Sorry, I should have switched it back to this so you could see me at least. All right, so we've got one more that we need to put in. Sometimes you got to put a little water in there when it gets a little too dark in the pan, because you don't want it to burn. All right, let me keep putting a little water in there. Just deglaze the pan with a little water. All right, sorry about that. Got a little ahead of me. All right, so we'll just leave him here and we'll see if this is enough, which I think it will be. Just cut up the onion. Yeah. So about half an onion and one rib of celery is good enough for what we're doing here. I'll do something with that later. So we'll simmer that out. Actually, I think I'm going to catch that. All right. So I've saved this liquid, which was the brown bits off the bottom that when I deglazed it with some water. And now we've got to put some butter in there to cook these vegetables. So maybe let's go back to this one here, and I'll move this over here. And we'll do this. Yeah, you can see my pan. Okay. So I'm putting butter in here. I'm swirling it around. The original recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of butter, and I feel like that might be a bit much for what we've got going on here. So I'm going to start with this and see how I feel about it. Because, you know, half a stick of butter. All right. So we'll put this here, this here. Oh, thank you for rating, Chadwave. How are you? I'm just making some stuffed pork chops. And I have to sort of soften these vegetables. So we'll do that and let that happen. You need a good apron? Well, I have a better apron than this, but this is the apron that this one is the easiest one to wash. All right, so we're going to set this over here for right now. And I'll put these in here. So I've browned off these, you know, pork chops a little bit. So I should say a little bit about this recipe. I know that I've talked about this person before. There was a woman on TV well, she died when I was very young. She was one of the first women on TV. And her name was Betty Feezer. And actually, I can show y'all a picture of her. This is a picture of her. She had a television program from 1953 until 1977. And in 1977, she unfortunately died of brain cancer. But she had been on television for over 25 years. And, or no, not quite 25, I guess. And she would come on and she would do cooking and she would do sewing. And my mom enjoyed her. So this is a recipe that my mother used to make when I was young. And it was one we all liked. That piece is a little big. Let's well, it'll have to work. So this called for 1/4 cup of butter. I cut it down to 2 tablespoons, which appears to be plenty of butter here. Yeah, I mean, there's only one of her shows. That's pretty good. There's only one of her shows that I've ever seen, and it's on YouTube, and it was posted by one of her sons. And it's not a great copy of it because it was done years ago. But I've gotten some of her cookbooks. I haven't found this one in one of her cookbooks, but when my mom might have been watching this based on where it is in her cookbook, she may not have had it. Do I have a favorite chef? I've always liked Alton Brown. I've always liked Julia Child. I really like Sarah Moulton. I remember her when she was on the Food Channel, and she would do an episode of live cooking every night for 3 hours, and was the executive chef of Gourmet Magazine. All right. So the recipe calls for 3 slices of bread cut into cubes. However, this is Thanksgiving, so I have this stuffing. The stuffing has additional flavor to it because it's seasoned. And I won't use it all for Thanksgiving. So now that these are sort of cooked down, I'm going to add it calls for 3 cups of bread cubes, so that's about 3. We'll add those in. And we'll add in some chicken broth. Now, if you were doing this with bread and the bread would be softer, you would only add some, a little bit of liquid. We'll add some of this in it too, because it's got some nice color. And we're just going to stir this together. Let those sort of absorb it, because you want it to be, a little on the soft side. Because this is going to go back into this is going to go, all into the oven. And I've found you kind of want it to look a little wetter than it does. So if you're going to use stuffing like this, you know, from, you know, hard bread cubes, you'd want to add a little more liquid. Say that looks about right. You want to be able to sort of have it be soft. You don't want it to necessarily come all apart, but you want it to be soft and maybe a little more liquid than you think. All right, so we're going to cook this a little bit. Yeah, so Betty Fieser did a lot of interesting stuff. I loved watching Julia Child. One of the things I'm trying to do here is just to make all of this approachable. I mean, cooking is not high stakes. Even baking is not high stakes. I mean, everyone talks about how you need to do everything in baking just so. But that, I mean, some of these recipes are incredibly resilient. And I'd say this is about looking where I want it. It's soft, but it's not too soft. All right, so we're going to turn that off. Take it off heat. And we're going to so what we're going to do, and here I'll change this a little bit so you see the pan. I think you see the pan. Is it are you seeing it off the microwave? I think you're seeing it off the microwave. Here, I'll just make this a little lower. Sorry, I don't mean to. Is that better? Yeah, that's a little better. Here, I'll move it over a little bit. So this is the meat that we browned earlier. And we're going to take we'll take this spoon, it's a smiley face, and we're just going to scoop this on top. And some will go down into the pan, and that's okay. But you just kind of want to pile it on top of each of these. I'm sure that the recipe is like this for expedience. You basically want to cover them. Sorry, I know that must have been loud, but the smiley face is cutting it. Here, I can just use this. All right, because we want to get, you know, all of that goodness. We paid for that flavor, so we want it. All right. So no, you haven't missed the whole thing. But it is going to go into the oven. So now, this is, you can tell the age of this recipe because it calls for a can of cream of mushroom soup. Cream of mushroom soup. The dreaded condiment of the bechamel replacement for the United States. Let's see if it comes out. Sometimes it comes out in the shape of a can, but I don't think this one's going to do it. All right, so we've got that in there, and it calls for, that's not the right recipe, that's a different recipe. It calls for 1/3 cup of water, which I would interpret to be sort of the half of the can. So I'm using chicken stock just because I had it. And I might add in some of this water here. And then I'm going to kind of stir it up in there, get all of that off the sides. And pour that in there. And then we're going to, oh, this has totally been off the camera. That's nice. Here, we'll move this over here. So this is cream and mushroom soup and some chicken stock and some other things. And I'm just whisking it together so it's smooth, or as smooth as it gets. Oh, and I want to put in a couple dashes of poultry seasoning. Or maybe a little more. That much. Probably about 1/2 teaspoon. It's good in there. It gives it some extra oomph. All right. All right, we'll put that in there. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to slowly pour this on top of it. Because you don't want to knock off what you put on there, right? And then whatever you have left, just... Oh, I'm not on the camera? How's that? Sorry about that. I moved it for one thing and... All right. All right. So we've put this all on there, and then we just put it in the oven. And it says it bakes for an hour. Here, I'm going to move this. It says it bakes for 1 hour. So that goes in the oven for an hour. And we will see. The chicken is indeed in stock. So we're going to just take these things over here and rinse them out. I try to clean as I go, so I know it's I don't have everything on camera, but I didn't figure you wanted to look into my sink. Okay, so we have dinner in there. And in a little bit, we're going to sort of have a bonus recipe, because normally I only cook one recipe. And that is, where's the one that's already done? Well, you didn't get me that house with the double oven, so you don't get that. All right, let me sit for a minute. All right, so we've got dinner in the oven, right? And we've got something else to make. The other day, someone commented on how dead my bananas were. And that's true. And I was waiting for them to be really dead so I could make some banana bread. Now, I'm going to put this in when this comes out, and I should have set a timer. We'll set it to that, 55 minutes. What am I making? So what I'm making is, it's a Betty Feezer recipe. Betty Feezer was a woman on TV years ago. Here I can show you a picture. That's Betty Feezer. Betty Feezer was on television in the Southeast, and she would do it was like a homemaker show. She was a home economist, and she. Can you come over and get a plate? She would do recipes on television. She would also do other things like a sewing project or some way to decorate or, that sort of thing. A way to get something out of the laundry. Yeah, they used to teach home ec in school. Well, when I was in school, you could take home ec. I didn't do it, but, excuse me, but I did. Here, I'll show y'all something. We'll see if the camera is in the right spot. Well, here I should do it like this so y'all can see it upright. This is my mother's cookbook. She put it in a ledger. Here, let me move this around a little bit. Oop. My foot was in the way. Back in years and years ago, you couldn't just get a blank book like you can now. So she got a ledger, and in the top of it here, which is where my picture is the dedication given to me September 5th, 1969 from Alan. Alan was my dad. And so, some of the recipes I've been using on this channel have come from this. It's all written in her handwriting. This is my sister's handwriting. For some reason, my mom always spelled raisin incorrectly. So here's the actual recipe for the stuffed pork chops. And I was, earlier typing it into a document. My sister had this and she gave it to me. I guess she got the recipes out of it. She wanted it. But I just treasure this. Even though not all of it is, this is a Harry and David brochure stuck in here. She would stick things in here. This is a band and chorus thing from when I was in school. She would stick stuff for us. a box from Country Morning Bread Blend Margarine, which I don't even think is still a thing. You know, pieces from a magazine. She had made a little pocket here in the front out of a paper bag. Of course, it's kind of done. And like this book has come apart. Like this whole falls, the binding has come out. But the two recipes I'm making tonight were, you know, my mom's. And my mom expressed love with food, I think. You know, that's part of why I look like this now. But she always, you know, endeavored to have a meal that when she could. Hey, Doda, how are you? I was just talking about my mother and her cookbook. So the recipe that we have in the oven cooking, the stuffed pork chops that are not actually stuffed because it's piled on top of them, is something my mom made when I was a kid and I remember enjoying. I don't make it much anymore, but I think it's just because I think I like it more than anybody else does. But both my sister and I really do like it. I'm good. I'm just sort of between recipes. So this is also out of this book of my mother's. And it's her banana bread recipe. And I'm going to make it exactly as written. Although when I usually make it, I don't. And the major difference I put into it is it calls for a cup of brown sugar. And I have a blend of stevia and brown sugar that I can use half as much of. And it calls for 2 cups of flour. And I usually replace one with oatmeal. And I add a little extra leavener and a little extra vital wheat gluten so it will rise enough. So in a minute here, we'll just mix some of that up. I don't want to do it too close to when this is not out of the oven. Basically, this is something I'm going to put in the oven after I take this out. But yeah, I'll do this again. I was showing y'all this, and you can see it was Carol's cookbook, and then she put Ann Christie, that's my sister, and then there was an and she put my name on it. There are recipes in here that she had to have this. The book itself was from 1969. There are recipes in here that were my grandmother's that my mom had to produce and air before she would give them to her. But you know, like this recipe is for 1, 2, 3, 4 cake. If you look on the back of a cake flour box, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 cake. And a 1, 2, 3, 4 cake is basically called that because it calls, you know, for a cup of buttermilk, a cup of Crisco or butter, 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups of cake flour, and 4 eggs. So it's supposed to. It's kind of like a pound cake. Is, you know, a pound of each ingredient. And actually, this is what I grew up with as pound cake, because you put a very small amount of leavener in it, so it's still pretty dense. But this was back when you couldn't just, you know, look up stuff on the internet and you know, let's see, that should be allowed. I don't understand why it would want to censor pound cake, but the Twitch censorship is a bit much, if you ask me. I just don't super love the way they do that. Right? But, you know, every, information is so easy to find now. It's amazing. Like, I mean, I have recipes. I have I have like a notebook with sheet protectors of stuff that I've printed off the internet. And like that's sort of my cookbook, or you know, I'll type it up and print it out on a piece of paper. But the in the past, so the original recipes with lemon, my dad liked almond, so we usually had almond. My hat is turned on my head. There we go. That's probably better. So yeah, but it used to be more difficult to find recipes. You could find some in the newspaper or magazine. People would pass them on little cards. Well, I probably wouldn't do an actual pound cake. Actual pound cake is quite dense. That 1, 2, 3, 4 cake recipe is actually pretty malleable. Like they always talk about baking as a science. But I was able to make that from that dense cake that my mother made to, I mean, it was good because it was sweet and the top would crust and that would sort of be the most intense flavor. But it was so moist that doesn't even really need like icing or anything. And it's great with fruit. But I mean, I could make lemon on it. It was just not, and it's just not what my go-to sort of flavor for it because that's just not what we had making up. Every time someone's put in pound cake, I've had to approve it. I don't understand why pound cake is the censored term on Twitch. Maybe we should ask Dan Twitch and see if he can tell us. But you know, it's so easy to find recipes now. In fact, there's so many recipes, it's hard to tell if you're looking at a good one anymore. And that's one reason I go back to something like this is, you know, these recipes are ones that have been made over my whole lifetime and even before my lifetime. And some of them have not aged well. And some of them have, right? It's just a matter of figuring out which those ones. Dollar cake? I don't know what dollar cake is unless it's from a cake mix. Or is it just a cake that can only cost $1? That would have to fit in a mug, I think. Oh, an alternative name for pound cake. Okay. I've never heard that. Well, pound cake is a pound of flour and a pound of eggs and a pound of butter and a pound of sugar. And that's a 6-7 cake. 6-7. It's funny. I always, instead of that kid, I always imagine that in the voice of Snagglepuss. Yeah, y'all can clip that if you want. I actually don't know how to clip it while I'm streaming, so. So yeah, I probably will do that 1, 2, 3, 4 cake, and you know, I've made that. Yeah, pound cake was that was originally named for a pound of each ingredient. And originally it didn't even have like a flavoring. Hey, Dimok, how are you? We have some stuffed pork chops that are in the oven cooking. And they're not actually stuffed. It's, you know, stuff on top of pork chops. 453 gram cake. I don't know. I think that's what a pound is 453 grams. Or is that 4 cups of flour? Or is that the weight of a pound of butter? It's funny because pound cake would only have probably been made in homes of people fairly well off because the ingredients were expensive, and also most people didn't have a scale. So you would have to guess at getting it right. And if you didn't, your cake would come out dry or whatever. I like this 1, 2, 3, 4 cake also because it has buttermilk in it, and it gives it a wonderful flavor and tenderness. Something went wrong. We couldn't find that clip. Oh no. That's terrible. I would have liked that clip. So yeah, that's what we're doing now. Is we have the stuffed pork chop recipe, and that is 4 to 6 pork chops. I used kind of thin ones, and you brown those on both sides. And then you take 3 cups of bread cubes, which is about 3 or 4 slices of bread. I used some stuffing cubes because that's what I had on hand. The bread I buy is normally like a wheat bread, and I don't think that would be great in this. Pork chop sandwich. Pork chop sandwich, pork chop sandwich. And then you softened onion and celery and 2 tablespoons of butter we did. And then you mix up some liquid with some cream of mushroom soup, and then you pour it over the top. And you bake it for an hour. So that's in the oven baking. Yeah, it's a nice hearty dish. I mean, we used to just eat it. That would be dinner. I mean, you might want to cook it with a vegetable or something, or you certainly don't need any starch when you've got the stuffing on top of the pork chop. But we're going to do some banana bread. And we can at least get started on it. No, let's give it another few minutes. And also I want to sort of think about what I'm going to do Tuesday night, because normally I do some kind of baked good or cookies, and what I'm thinking about doing is doing some prep for Thanksgiving. I don't know that I will stream all of my Thanksgiving, just because of the way it usually works out on that day is a little hectic. Hey, thanks, Jesse. Hey, Kurt rated us. Thank you so much, Kurt. We are cooking tonight. We are cooking our dinner, which is going to be some stuffed pork chops that are not actually stuffed because the stuffing is just on top of them. And I'm about to stir up some banana bread to go in the oven when we take dinner out. Yeah, you're a little ways away for that, but all right. So I need to get a pan out. So let's get a bread pan. And I need to get out some ingredients. So just hold on a moment and I'll get the ingredients I don't have already out. Need some flour. brown sugar and baking soda. Every time I pull out brown sugar, it makes me think of Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones, but I don't think they sing that anymore. For, understandable reasons. All right. All right, so we're going to, let's do this. First, what we're going to do is to spray this pan. I know that y'all just wanted to see me spray the pan. All right. So we've sprayed our pan, so it's ready to receive our dough. Now I need a bowl. So let's get a bowl. And we are going to, in this bowl, cream our butter with a cup of brown sugar. Oh, that would be neat. I have a sturdier apron, but there's only one problem with it, is you have to iron it. It's made out of canvas, and it's really nice. But it's hanging there. Yeah, I mean, usually you'd wear like a leather apron, for like blacksmithing, I would think. Let's get a measurement cup. We need 1 cup of brown sugar. Sorry. So we need a cup of brown sugar. I put it over a paper towel. Oh, that's neat. Do you do a lot of leather work? I don't think I have it in me to do the blacksmith work. I'm bigger around. I'm not big muscles. All right. So that's a cup of brown sugar. We're just going to take this and pour as much of it as we can back in the bag. Cosplay cooking. I've never cosplayed anything, so cosplay cooking would be interesting. But I don't think I would look good as Julia Child. All right. I'm so upset. We have Kroger delivery here, and they're going to pull out of our market, and that's a bummer. All right. So we'll just take that, throw it in there. Okay. We need the mixer. That's over here. I just figured I would start this so I could get it in the pan, and then when the oven is empty, I can put this in. Unfortunately, y'all won't see the end of this, but I will post pictures on my Discord so you know what it looks like. And I'll revisit this again on my channel. basically it's just these bananas are at the end of their rope, and so I have to do something with them or I'm going to have to throw them away, and I hate to throw them away. All right. So, you know, classic baked good quick bread situation. You're going to cream the butter and the sugar together. I'm just going to get some of it up on the beater. And then we're going to cream this together. All right, so we've creamed this. Now you would scrape the bowl down because you don't want, you want to make sure you don't have any butter stuck on the bottom. This looks nice and creamed. And you might wonder why you do this process. And so what you're actually doing here, the sugar helps in getting into the butter. And when you cream the butter, you're actually making microscopic micro bubbles into the food. And the micro bubbles are some of what gives you lift. All right, so I have an egg here. So you can put your eggs in one at a time. You can put both eggs in at one time. However, it's going to take you longer to do it. And so you want to mix it until you don't see the yellow anymore. All right, and then we're going to do the other one. Oh, okay. That was a mess. All right. Excuse me for a moment. I need to wash my hands because the egg broke all over my hand. All right, so now we'll mix that in. Scrape the bowl down. All right. And we'll give this the spurs again. And the reason I run the mixer up is just to get the stuff off of it. All right. So now we need two cups of flour. I'm using all-purpose flour. You could use bread flour. There's one thing that should go in here first. Well, our dinner's in the oven, so we need some vanilla. So I'm going to put in about that much vanilla. Let's say a teaspoon. We'll mix that in. And now we're going to use one other bowl, but a smaller one. Sorry for how loud that was. All right. And we will get our flour. So here, let me push this up here out a little bit and pull this over so y'all can see it. And I know invariably someone will tell me that this would be better if I weighed this flour. However, I can tell you that my mother and my grandmother would have never, ever weighed flour. And also, this recipe is just not written that way. All right, and then we're going to put in a teaspoon of baking soda. And we're going to take a whisk and just whisk this together so that the baking soda is distributed and there are no lumps in the flour. You could sift it. I can't get to my wax paper that I would sift on. And I'm also going to give it a little pinch of salt. All right. So there's one, so we can go a little further here with this because we need to do the bananas. And these bananas have seen better days. But for this purpose, the older the bananas are, the better. I just want to open the trash can so I can put the peels in there. All right. It doesn't matter if they're bruised. I think I've even made this when they fermented. But the sort of softer the banana gets, the better flavor you'll have in the end product. And these are so mushy, normally it calls for you to mash them. I can let the mixer mash these. Yeah, I know. That's why they're good. This is, after all, what is called a dessert banana. All right. So I'm just going to sort of mash into them a little bit with the mixer. Just kind of break them up a little bit. And then we're going to just kind of mix them up. So I'm glad this happened, because this can happen when you do this. If you notice, where's that? It appears that it's sort of broken, that there are little bits of butter floating in it. And it has. But the good news is it will totally not matter in your end product. It's basically just, there's a little too much liquid here, and your dry ingredients will sort of take care of it. But, you know, that doesn't always happen. And it usually happens when you have butter. All right, we're going to hold here before we mix them together. Let me look at the time on my dinner. Let me look at my dinner. It's going to, you know, be in there a little bit. So we're going to hold on this and concentrate on our nuts. I'm going to set this over here. And this over here. This is a different color in person, so I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe the lighting. All right. So I'm going to do, these are pecans. I'm sure you could do walnuts. Okay. So you want about that many, maybe a quarter of a cup. You don't, I mean, it's banana nut bread. It's not nut banana bread. Oh, no. I did that wrong. Okay. Put those back in the bag. I turned it upside down and the fold came out. And I keep all of my nuts in the freezer because they just last indefinitely in there. All right. All right, let me put these back in the freezer. And you could use, you know, any nut you wanted. You could use walnuts. You could use, hell, you could probably use peanuts. I know everybody has, you know, there are people with allergies and you'd have to leave them out. They had to keep you away from what? Nuts? And you just, well, I just dropped one on the floor. You just kind of want to break them up some. You just don't want them to be big giant whole halves. I should have used a sharper knife. I get these at Costco because they sell a 2-pound bag for about, well, I haven't been there lately, but it's classically been about under $15, which for 2 pounds is a good price. All right, so you want them about broken up like that. You know, big enough pieces, but not, you know, tiny little ones. I mean, maybe you want the tiny little ones, but I like the bigger pieces. It gives you some texture difference. So you put these in after you mix the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. You would eat them all. If I leave the bag out, Jason will eat them all. He likes pecans. Hey, Punk Pat, how are you? I'm just waiting to put my, for my dinner to be closer to the end, so I can put this banana bread in there, and I just don't want to mix it together and have the leavening gas out. Can put this back over here. Close the trash can. Take this and this and this. Hope y'all are all, and in case anybody has come in, after I went through the whole spiel of what I'm doing. Tonight we've done some pork chops that have been, seared on both sides, and then you make a stuffing. You're supposed to use bread. I didn't use bread because I don't have a good white bread on hand, or a stale bread. So I used stuffing cubes and just added a little more liquid, and then. You mix those vegetables that you soften in the butter, and you pour a can of cream of mushroom soup and some liquid on top of them. I used chicken stock because I had some I needed to use up. Jay fries maybe a squirrel. No, I mean he just likes. So I go more for sweet things, and he goes more for more savory or salty things. He usually wants mixed nuts. I think if I give him just one nut, like if I order a bag of just one kind of nut, he usually doesn't eat them. Is there eggs in this dish? There are not eggs in the stuffing dish unless there are eggs in one of the ingredients. So I mean, you could use a bread. There's butter in it, but you could use a bread that had no eggs in it. I don't know how well a gluten-free bread would work because I don't know that it would hold up to the treatment that we've given it, and I don't know if a cream of mushroom soup has an egg in it or an egg product. And you could actually make sort of a cream of mushroom situation yourself. And if I was not making, if I was trying to make this more than what it was, I would probably do that. There is egg though in the banana bread because the banana bread won't come together without them. But I assume if you're deathly allergic to eggs, then you've either gone towards flax eggs or aquafaba, which is the liquid from chickpeas. from canned chickpeas. You can evidently use that as an egg substitute. You can actually make an aquafaba omelet. So in this banana bread that I'm making, that I'm just waiting to stir together until this is a little closer to done, this is half a cup of butter, 1 cup of brown sugar, 2 eggs, 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 3 ripened bananas, quarter cup of chopped pecans, and a teaspoon of vanilla. And so we're going to cook this in a 350-degree oven for about an hour. And at the end, you turn it off and you leave it in the oven. You don't open the oven at the end. You leave it in the oven and let it sit for 5 more minutes, and then you take it out. And you don't want to take it out of the... Oh, so you're just allergic to chicken eggs and not quail eggs. Interesting. Are you allergic to, like, duck or turkey eggs? Like, they're not easy to get, but if you know somebody who's raising those... I've seen ostrich eggs in the store, but that would be a lot of eggs in one egg. So I'm just waiting here for a few minutes, and we've talked about, how these recipes came from my mother and her cookbook. Oh, okay. I haven't run into a lot of people with this particular allergy. I don't see that one as much. Can you use like is it the whole egg, or can you use like egg whites? Like, are you more allergic to the yolk, or are you more allergic to the whites, or is it just, it doesn't matter? Oh, you just can't have the yolks. Yeah. So you can buy like a carton of egg whites. I mean, I don't super love the white without the yolk, so. And the yolk is what, yeah, no, I get it. Well, the other thing you could do, if it was like in a baked good, if you're, not going to use one of those sort of substitutes, is you could get some, I mean, the main thing that you're trying to get out of an egg yolk in baking is lecithin. And you can get soy lecithin. It's more of a specialty ingredient. It's what they basically replace eggs with in a lot of baked goods that are commercially produced. But that would probably work for you too. I don't know how you would dose it into the mix, but I know you can get a lot of those chemicals because there are people who produce them, and you can find them on Amazon. Like you can find MSG on Amazon, but you're not going to find it really in a grocery store. Unless they have, what was it, Accent, I think, that had it? It's basically just a can of monosodium glutamate. Yeah, Accent. I have a little envelope of it. It's interesting because, like, specialty ingredients, I mean, you pretty much can't usually get them in a drugstore. In a grocery store. Yeah, 100% MSG. Yeah. It's all it is. I mean, I don't understand why they have a name on it and they don't just call it MSG. But I guess anything branded has a name on it. Let's take a look at our pork chops and see how they're doing. I kind of like them to be a little more done. That would have been 11 minutes. All right, we'll give them the whole time. Yeah, you know, people are really scared of MSG, and there was a lot of sort of bad reporting about it, and so there's a whole bunch of people who believe stuff like it gives them headaches or flush or you know some other kind of problem, and it's probably psychosomatic. Like I don't doubt that there is someone who has some sensitivity to it. But the number of people who say they have a sensitivity to it are probably lying. The egg cholesterol scare of the 90s. Hey, Moundress, how are you? Or Mound Iris? Is it Mound Iris? I'm not sure. I bought MSG. I don't super think it does a lot of anything. Like I haven't, sorry, I had dropped a nut on the floor. I hadn't had a lot of luck with it. Well, we got 10 minutes. I mean, it can sit for 10 minutes. So we'll get back to our banana bread. In this bowl, I have half a cup of butter or 1 stick, 1 cup of brown sugar, 2 eggs, and 3 bananas that were overripe, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Yeah, then it's probably something they're feeding them. Yeah, you know, Jesse Bear, that makes sense. I haven't really experimented with it a whole lot. I've put it in something thinking it needed something, and I ended up using salt instead because it just didn't give me the flavor that I was looking for. All right. So we've got this back. And this is flour and baking soda that we stirred together. So I'm going to put some of this in here. Maybe about half of it. And I'm going to use this mixer just to bring it together. You don't want a huge pile when you turn the mixer on. Thanks, Doofburger. You have a good night. Thanks for coming by. All right. So we've got the dry ingredients in here. We'll mix the rest of that in. And this is my mother's recipe for this. Okay. So do that to get the stuff off the beaters. And we're going to go around and get the excess flour from the edge. Just sort of fold that together. or mix that in. Make sure there's nothing, and the dough looks nice. And that sort of butter separating problem is gone. And now we've got these chopped pecans that I'm going to put in here. All right. Get my my microplastics. Yeah, this is banana bread. I'm making this so that I can put it in the oven. It bakes at the same temperature, or close, as what I'm cooking in the oven. All right. You don't want to stir it together too much. It'll get tough. So we have this pan that I sprayed a while ago. And we're just going to, here, move it over so you can see. Well, I'll try to do this. You just sort of scrape it in there. All right. So we'll scrape this on the side here to get this out. That's probably all I can get out of this bowl. So we'll sort of even this out. You don't have to give it super even. It'll sort of figure itself out. But you want to get it, decently even on top. All right. So that's banana bread. And, when you're fooling with raw dough, what you need to be careful of mostly, everybody thinks it's the egg, salmonella from the egg. But the real danger these days is not from the egg so much. That's still a bit of a danger, especially if you are immunocompromised in some way. But the big danger is from the flour, because flour can have botulism in it. But baking in the oven will sort of help with that. All right. So in case you're new in, because I know people come and go in streams, we will go over our recipes. The stuffed pork chops is in the oven. It's 4 to 6 pork chops. I had bone-in rib loin chops, because that's what was on sale at the grocery store. You can use the little ones. It works a little better on a bigger one. You can take a thick one and butterfly it. And then that has 3 cups of bread cubes, which you would just slice up some white bread. I didn't have any white bread, so I used stuffing cubes that I had. And half a cup of onion, half a cup of celery, 2 to 4 tablespoons of butter melted that you cook those vegetables in. And it tells you some water. It could be any liquid, really. So you're going to mix some into the skillet when you're cooking the bread. I actually had to add more because the stuffing was really dry. And then you mix the can of mushroom soup with some liquid, and you pour that over the top of everything. And the banana bread that I just mixed up, it's sitting behind me, and I'm going to put it in the oven after that comes out, is, let's see if it's ready. Okay, we know. Yep, that's enough. Ooh, that is right there. I'm going to give it another minute. This is banana bread. This is my mother's recipe. This is not how I usually make it because I've done some alterations to it that I think are generally healthier, but I will revisit this in another stream. I'm really just making this because my bananas are going bad. Well, they're fine for this, but they were pretty soft and pretty dark. So this calls for a stick of butter or half cup. Brown sugar, a cup of brown sugar, 2 eggs, 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I probably could come up with some student ones. I'm not really professional, as you would say. No professional cook would probably use a can of cream of mushroom soup by Campbell's. I'm just a cook. I don't claim to be a chef. And I want to make it approachable. So if you would like some ideas, I can come up with some and I can do a stream of that. In fact, let's see if this works. No, it still doesn't work. Jay Fries, can you put the Discord link in there? Or do Bang Discord for me? Thank you. If you join that Discord, that's where you can put your own meals in your meals. I will put what I'm cooking in Neil's meals. And there are recipe suggestions. And if you wanted, you could put in there, kind of what you think you'd like to have. And I'll develop something. Because that would be an interesting one, because student college dishes need to be sort of cost effective, and also you have limited options to cook it with. So that would be an interesting challenge. So I had 3 ripe bananas and a 1/4 cup of chopped pecans and a teaspoon of vanilla. And also, let's see if this one works. It's funny, it works if you do one. Let's see if Discord works. Yeah, it's like it won't work until someone does one in chat. It's weird. And that Linktree link there is, I post these to YouTube and Facebook, as well as the VODs that are here on Twitch. So I'm making this banana bread. It's good for breakfast or for desserts. I don't think that I could deal with the rigors of being in a food truck all day. I'm happy to make this my sort of hobby. I don't know that I'd want to be a pro cook. It just seems super stressful. Here in my kitchen, it's not. Okay, I think these are probably all right. I'm gonna get this little rack here. They're not exactly how I thought these would turn out, but such is life. But they do look good. I think I had the soup too thick. I need another thing here. These are going to have to cool a bit, but I'll let you see how they are. Let's do that. And this is how they come out. So the soup soaks into the stuffing. Some of the stuffing gets a little crispy. There's liquid in the pan that's good. This is stuffed pork chops that are not stuffed. This is an old recipe. It's something my mother would make. I consider it to be like some comfort food. And let me put the banana bread in. I'm going to change the temperature a little bit because in a glass pan will make it seem more hot than it is. So this is, you could, what we're probably going to do is each have 2 of these. If you were trying to spread it amongst people, you could cook some other sides with it. I just sort of went with this evening. But this is something that is pretty low prep on the front end, and you throw in the oven for an hour and it's done. Which reminds me, I need to set the timer for the banana bread. But this is stuffed pork chops. You can see how this is sort of dried out on top, so it's not so liquidy. This will be very flavorful. And it's really good. And it will, it's good that it's sitting here for a few minutes so it's not so incredibly hot. Unfortunately, y'all won't get to see the banana bread tonight. But what I always do is, hey, Square 1986. I wonder if that means you are born in 1986, because that makes me feel even older, because I was 11. This series of What's for Dinner is basically me cooking something for dinner. And sometimes I make something that's super complicated. If y'all would like to see stuff that's more simple, it's a shorter stream, but I'm happy to do that as well. And if you need me to do something that's, basically more cost-effective food, although this isn't super expensive of a meal, a can of cream of mushroom soup, a few slices of bread or some stuffing cubes, some pork chops. Pork chops were the most expensive thing here, and I think I paid $7 for those, which is a lot, but I was shopping in Publix and they're high. But I'm happy to do, those sorts of challenges. I don't super think to do them, so if that's something y'all want, just let me know, and I'm happy to try to work that out for you. I want to thank you all for coming to my stream because cooking is pretty important to me. It's one of the ways that I've done things for people. And I mean, I was taught that by my mother, who was a big influence on me cooking. I've also, watched a lot of cooking shows and read cookbooks. I actually, if I showed you my cookbook collection, you probably think I was insane. But I will be streaming again on Tuesday. I don't know that I'm going to do a cookie like I usually do. I may be doing Thanksgiving prep, just because we have some dinner to do on with family on Wednesday. And well, thank you, Dinner with Mom. I'm happy that you could be here. I hope I didn't gross you out with this. So it's probably going to be that. Instead of, I talked about readdressing a cookie that I had done and I wasn't as happy with. There is not a turkey onesie, sorry. I cannot put on a onesie and in Florida. It is just too warm for that. I tried to get a Thanksgiving apron, but it disappeared. Anyhow, I'm rambling. It does mean a lot to me that y'all come and visit me in this time. I do what I can to try to make all of this approachable. I know I don't always succeed because I do things that are not necessarily, there's probably too many steps or something. But I hope you enjoy watching me. It means a lot to me that you've come. I love all the support I've gotten from everybody. And, you know, I haven't been doing this very long, but I've found that I love, you know, interacting with the community here. And I'm so glad that I chose to do it streaming instead of doing like videos on YouTube or something. That being said, I do upload all of these streams to YouTube. And you can go there to that link tree, and that will show you the Facebook for this channel, the YouTube for this channel, and the Instagram for this channel. And also, if you'd like to chat when we're not here, or, you know, pester me about any cooking advice or any of that, you can go join our Discord, and I will be posting this recipe and the banana bread recipe in there. You will get a picture of the banana bread when it's done. And thank you so much for coming. Now I'm probably going to raid out because I'd like to eat this dinner. So let me see who I can find. Let's find somebody. I don't want to find the street food people. No, not that. I think we're going to do this. It's some Middle Eastern fusion cooking. So that should be good. Make sure they're still cooking. Yep. It's a VTuber, and they're doing some cooking with overhead shots. So let's do that. There's OBS. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for coming. I really enjoy having you. I enjoy meeting new people. And thanks, Dinner with Mom. That's so sweet of you to say. But now we're going to go ahead and raid out. Y'all have a good evening. Be sure you eat something good, take care of yourself, and do something nice for yourself today. Thanks so much.